So there's a few things I'd like to talk about tonight. It's nice and late. It's about 12:15. I'm in my element. I don't have any wine, but I have some strong coffee. I put a little sugar in it to give me a lift tonight. I've got a fire going, not doing real good in the wood stove right now, but welcome to my temporary desk, my temporary office, and no one needs to know where it is. The topics I wanted to talk about, there's like four of them I'd like to oscillate through. It's a giftedness and pride, in Isaiah 52, and the passage, those who seek to save their life will lose it, and those who seek to lose their life, or those who lose their life for my sake, Yeshua's sake, in the Gospels, they shall find it. So it goes, in pride, they talk about how it's pride that blinds, and Yeshua was always going around opening people's eyes so they could see. And I was taught, one of my teachers taught me, if you're focusing on the physical, the devil wins. So don't always do that. When you're looking at the scripture. So Isaiah 52 was awake, awake, put on strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake thyself from the dust, arise, sit down, O Jerusalem, shake thyself from the bands about thy neck. It has to do with oppression. A lot of Jews are oppressed. A lot of believers are oppressed, or if they're not doing their job. I get sued for what I do. I'm very passionate about it. So I'm very hated. I'm hated by a lot of people, and I'm always persecuted. I always was, especially after making a commitment to Elohim. And then things just went, were like upside down. I thought they were bad before that. After that happened, it was, your life is over, or the life that you were hanging on to is over. About giftedness, I didn't recognize or acknowledge mine until I was in my 40s. I knew I was different, and the education that I pissed away, I'm not ashamed that I pissed away a public education. It was absolutely abusive, and I'm glad I didn't take part of any of it. But I didn't recognize the characteristics of a gifted person until I started, checking checklists and things in my 40s, where, it was like bang, 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 I hit every one of them. And then when I send my work and my writing and my books and things to, like, my one book to, like, a PhD that, deals with gifted intelligences, still, questioning if I have one, because I'm not going to take some secular test. It's going to, with too many variables to determine whether I'm gifted by their standards or not. I don't have anything to do with it. They see it, and I know they go bang, 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 bang. They go, no, it's impossible that he is not. And that doesn't mean that I'm some know-it-all and I know things. I'm still just a child in so many ways. I've been playing guitar since I was a little kid, actually. There's still, if there's a little girl that has taken the time to read a book, to maybe teach herself something that I never knew. I mean, she becomes my authority, and she teaches me. She says, there's esteem others better than yourselves. It's humble yourself. That's one of the things Elohim wants us to do. Humble yourself. You can't pray, "Oh God, humble me." Well, you really don't want that, because that's being abased. those who humble themselves, they will be exalted. Those who exalt themselves, they will be abased. So you humble yourself. It's your job to do it. You don't want Elohim to humble you. You don't know what you're asking. But the prideful, they don't humble themselves. The people that submit themselves to Elohim, they do. And then sometimes you get into self-righteousness and stuff like that. I'm not guilty of any of that. But so say you have, I'm getting off track, Isaiah 52. Say you've got, you got cops and you got robbers. And the robbers always live by patterns because they live in the dark. So that's how the cops always catch them. The cops are afforded more light because they have a righteous cause. They're endowed with more light, so they can see what they can see the patterns of the robbers. And the robbers' mentality is always, well, revenge against the cops, you know, or something. But they always get caught, and their annual income is like nil. It's not even a worthwhile pursuit. So it's their pride that blinds them, and it's the humility of an officer that, and his integrity to fight a good cause that gives them this endowment of the light. Getting off the humility part there. For instance, I can't see very good in the physical, so I wear a patch on my left eye when I read, and I've got magnification and glasses and stuff. It's all painful. The less that I can see in the physical, the more that I can see in the spiritual. But I had to admit that I can't see in order to see. How Yeshua was going around opening blind eyes, things like that. So the prideful, they're the ones, they think that they know everything. They think they can see they think they can calculate everything. What they're going to say in court, how court's going to go, what's going to happen tomorrow and everything. So they're certain that everything that comes through the front door, they can pinpoint it. Because a gifted person doesn't look any different than anyone else. So they presume, which means they've already assumed they know what it is. And I used to say, at least in my head, that just because it doesn't happen in your backyard doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I used to even think that way. So the prideful, here they are, they think that they can see, but they can't, and they wind up getting thumped on the head for it really big, where Elohim's people, when they admit that they can't see, well, they're afforded light. That doesn't mean that I can see all. I still can't see. I can only see because of Elohim. And sometimes I don't know where I'm going, and I'm walking a plank. That's what faith is. And I don't want to go off the end. I'm like, oh man, people think I'm crazy. The people that are watching me do it, they think I'm off my rocker, and I have to take that extra step and go into faith, and then I'm afforded light. Many times the prideful think that I am arrogant and that I'm prideful, but nobody who submits themselves and their lives and their belongings and their hopes and believes in Elohim to the exclusion of common sense is prideful, can be prideful. That's the opposite of it. So whoever on the enemy's side is accusing me of being prideful, that's just absolutely ludicrous. Don't even try it. So the prideful are blinded. Elohim's people, they're afforded light. They can see. We're to compare spiritual things with spiritual things too. So I come across a lot of gifted people. I always have, everywhere, all the time. A lot of gifted people that probably don't even know they're gifted. Some of the gifted people I come across, I'm talking too fast. One of the characteristics, by the way, that I recognize gifted people by is that they will overwhelm you. And I try very hard not to overwhelm people, but I do. It doesn't matter where I go. It doesn't matter. I'm singing a song. Doesn't matter what it is. It's going to be too intense for them. They're going to be biting their lip and, you know, I don't know if I want to listen to this guy anymore, or, you know. But a lot of the gifted people that I come across are prideful, and they've used their gift for criminal behavior, and a lot of them know their IQ test scores. They remember them faintly, and probably because they were tested in prison. And 2 landlords ago, my landlord, I put him in jail. He put himself in jail, and the officer that was escorting him away told him, he said, "You did it to yourself." And they had they took away his concealed weapons permit, and the guy still won't stop. You can tell he wouldn't stop unless if I weren't careful, he would pursue me. And there's many people out there that would and do, that's, I glory in that as part of the price that comes with the territory. There was George Tribal. It was like in the 80s. I read about him. He was a poisoner. I think it was in Florida. Some redneck neighbors of his that he wanted to kill. Probably because they thought he was so stupid. He was, you know, Mensa material and everything. And what got him caught was just everyone else was just stupid. But I understand how the gifted get antagonized into pride is because they don't look any different than anybody else, and everybody treats them like they're just a dumb box of rocks. And I have to battle with it every day. What I have to do is forgive people. That's harder. It's harder than taking out my own wrath on them or trying to vindicate myself against them, even if it's only done mentally. And alone. Biblically, what happens is Elohim sends the tormentors on you then, and then you got all these dialogues going on with all these people. You wish you said this to them, and next time I see him, I'm going to say this to them. Those are tormentors. You deserve that. If you don't forgive them, Elohim won't forgive you, and those tormentors won't be called off. So my job is to forgive them. Do I do it like instantly right away? Of course not. Sometimes they haunt me until I realize, oh, this is a trouble spot. I have to forgive this person. Anyway, if I look pale and thin and my hair looks dark to you, it's because it's true. I just suffered like 4 months of pneumonia, and I still haven't quite kicked it out of my lungs, and I worked the whole time I did it. I can't stop working. And I was neuropsychologically tested in my late 20s for brain damage. I had brain damage when I was younger. I tried to hide it. It was to the point that I couldn't speak, and I could hear coworkers. I could overhear them say it's sad, things like that. And I just lived in a horror of isolation because of it. And after the testing itself was so grueling and humiliating. I went on a walkabout afterward for 4 years, not caring if I lived or not, and I didn't want to live even before then. And I never inquired the prognosis of the tests. It was the end of it. But another gifted person I came into contact with, here it is, just a few months ago. I'm going to be evicted. The bank is going to take my vehicle. It's going to take my truck. I'm getting food from a food pantry. I just published my book. I backed off my cleaning accounts. Living on disability, $661 a month. And it's not working out. My landlord's trying to evict me illegally, and I have to fight every step of the way with pneumonia. And everyone's trying to it's hard to be humble to people at all times. Isaiah 52 is saying, step up, be wise, shake yourself from the dust. You're a son of Elohim. Don't let people do this to you. Don't let anyone despise you. The Bible says that in 2 places. Let no one despise you. So I started thinking higher. Well, that's what caused me to be able to publish my book. It wasn't easy. It was the kind of thing where I was like walking the beach, wringing my hands, going, man. I started drinking wine. I was like watching the moon. Anytime I do a big job, I start doing quirky things like writing poetry or writing songs and stuff like that, which is really good. It means that I'm getting back into my element. But so here I'm in a desperate situation. I know I need to live by my faith. I know I need to walk through the fire. I'm out in the woods. I'm hiking. I'm trying to kick pneumonia. And I'm crying. And this is where I need to be, on my knees and like, oh my God, this is, I don't know if I can do this. This is hard. But this is essential. Did I talk about, when you go through a fire, you have to go into the fire rather than around it. Anyway, I'm like, I have to pay my bank. I have to sell this truck and I have to pay the bank. So I took up a case a year ago about a murder investigation in a certain town. And it happened 3 years prior. And I put one of my publications up I posted it at a bookstore, Unraveling the Art of Deception. And they're not murder cases, but they're true stories, and some of them are very serious, where people got away with things that they shouldn't have. And so I'm able with my gift to put words to subtleties. And when you put words to subtleties, they're no longer subtle, and then people flee. And I used to monitor, my postings, and I would look at all the other postings and compare, and I would try to get feedback from mine. And I would see, whimsical sayings of bookstore stuff and yoga retreats and just, benign things like that. And I would look at mine and go, man, that's pretty grave, that's pretty serious, but that's who I am, that's how I often, that's my temperament, is grave and serious. I'm probably not very fun to be around, and that's okay. But one day I went in and I noticed there was a bounty, there was a reward, a substantial reward for this murderer, and I'd never heard of it. And I sent away for the FBI documents on it, and they couldn't give them to me because it was an open case. But here I was, I'm out living with this Craigslist landlord that's taking advantage of me, trying to take advantage of me, bossing me around. I've got pneumonia. I'm losing everything, and I'm like, the hell with it. My guitar, my classical guitar that I couldn't play there anyway because it was a complex, I pawned it, and it was beyond due date. It was gone, and I'm crying over those things. And I'm like, I can't fight anymore. I have to live by wisdom. I can't physically do anymore. I can't do it. I don't have insurance on my truck. So I go to try to sell the truck, and I'll just put myself in a junker for $500, sell for $3,000. And the individual that I set up to sell the truck to, I started asking questions in the right place, and they turned out giving me more information about this murder case than anyone ever had and ever should have. And it was 3 days later that I went in to give my statement to the police that they were the one that did it. And they have a gifted intelligence, and the reason why I was able to identify that is because of they have the same characteristics as I had, and they probably don't even know it. No books around in the entire place, and they know Hebrew and things like that. It's not typical. And they were so gifted and so smart. I'm not going to say they were smart and that they were good. They were smart and they were bad. Stupid that they divulged the information that they did to me. Smart that they were good enough liars. He was a good enough liar that he necessitated that I had to go to a newspaper and another crime writer to watch my back before going in to give my statement, because he made it sound as if it was some high-profile case that nobody could do anything about, and that an eyewitness had actually already tried to go to authorities and they wound up with a hit out on him. So I had to be very careful, because I don't trust the police either. I don't trust the FBI, never will. And so essentially I risked my life to do it, and I made like 3 different statements. I went to about 3 different agencies, and I talked to maybe, I don't know, 7 different detectives, you know. I told the detectives, they were sitting at my kitchen table the last time I talked to him, I said, this guy knows he's smarter than you. You can't catch him forensically because he's got you covered there. His particular gift is that he's science-oriented, but you have to catch him behaviorally. And I told him, I said, you couldn't convince me that he didn't do it. And, you know, they just shut their books at that point. They know that they've got him. And just to let you know how confident I am that what he did is, I'm not looking for him anymore. Can I prove it? No. And I do have to ask myself from time to time, this has been a couple months now, I'm sure they're trying to build the strongest case they can against him if he's still alive. I have to ask myself, you know, could I be wrong? You know, I have to ask myself that, because I could be. But to let you know, I'm not looking for him anymore. The case is solved in my brain. I know he did it. It's just, it wasn't what they expected, and that goes back to pride. And I could see the pride in the officers, too, especially when I said, this guy knows he's smarter than you. They didn't want to hear that, or at least one of the officers, he didn't want to hear that. He shouldn't be an officer for that very reason. And I heard it said that, you know, when you're, and he's a detective, when you're an officer, a law officer, and you become complacent, you're dead. And that's even probably more in the physical, but this gentleman eluded the FBI and eluded local law enforcement for 4 years. In 1 year, my faith led me to, well, I know that if there's anything that I hang on, that I'm afraid to lose, that means I want it too much. I was afraid to lose my guitar. Oh, I didn't want to lose it, and I lost it. I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do. And I'm apologizing to God. God was the one to help me to get it. It's a gift. He wanted me to play. He doesn't want me to lose it. He doesn't want me to lose my voice. He doesn't want me to stop rejoicing in those types of things. But I didn't have a choice. I had to let it go. And the same with my truck. I had to let it go. Well, here's the conclusion. I still have the truck. I lost the home, okay, or the house. A lot of things I just threw in the dumpster. I just get out of there. I can't carry things around. Forget it. So I've got a temporary desk here, and I got my guitar back, and it's a praise report. I'm going to have to tell you how. I went to the pawn shop. It's the most beautiful classical guitar that anyone's ever seen. It's just beautiful. I've posted a couple of videos on YouTube. Hopefully you can check them out and determine how long it's been since I've played or sang, and or if I ever did. But the pawn shop had been giving me, I've been pointing it so many times that they've been giving me more and more money for it. So by the time I saw it back in the pawn shop on the wall, I was just going to go buy another classical guitar, maybe an old used one or something for $100. And I saw mine on the wall, and it was only $10 more than what it would have been if I would have bought it in time that it was still legally mine. So I bought it back, and it's so does that bring home kind of the lesson? Those who seek to save their life will lose it, but those who lose their life for my name's sake, they shall find it. Well, those are just material things, but here it is. And I'm not giving you all the examples of the people that seek to save their life, like the landlord that was, you know, trying to take advantage of me, or maybe or the landlord that went to jail, you know, he was one of them, or like this murderer, He's seeking to save his life. That's why he's coming up with all these lies. He's scared out of his mind. But the lies, you have to remember. The truth, you don't have to. It's always going to be there. You don't have to worry about where it went, how to track it. It's there. But I got the guitar back, and I thought it was a great praise report. Notice how I don't take many breaks when I'm speaking. That's a sign of, well, an unusual amount of something going on upstairs. So the guitar, I was so grateful to get it. I have to tell you the story. It was while I was out west, living in a tent. I had to sell my 12-string. The 12-string was killing my arm. It was very hard to play. I've been playing since I was a kid. It was a tennis elbow, probably like forever from the thing. Been playing it, outdoors and stuff, working very hard at a camp. It's not easy to do. My body, I don't know if it'll ever recover. But I needed a classical guitar, something easier to play. I went into a jewelry store. This thing was brand new. And I was always fearful, people think I'm prideful if I play or something like that. And, if you don't use your talent, you'll lose it. So I started stepping up and showing people, I could play. This is what I do with a guitar. So I went in, I asked them, can I take this down? It's just a jewelry store, some ladies in high heels. They don't know music, but there was a music shop in there. A brand new guitar, I took it down, Spanish guitar, Lucida, some type. And I stepped up and I tuned it, and it just played into the room and played it. And they helped me purchase the guitar. They helped me to get a case for it, and I bought it under budget because they were like, well, this is a serious musician. Let's help him get this guitar. That thing lived through a car wreck, which got me into the truck. Not that I wanted to get into the truck, not that I wanted to get into a car wreck. But without the case, the guitar probably wouldn't even live through it. So I didn't want to lose that guitar. I didn't want to lose it. And, I could lose it again. I have $2 to my name right now. I went to a food pantry today and I got food and I got coffee today. I was very grateful for that. But the point is, those who seek to save the life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake shall find it. And the lesson was, I need to live by wisdom and not keep putting a blunt, dull axe to a tree with more power, burning myself out, but to use my brain and use my gifts and to step up like Isaiah 52 says and do what God says and shake myself from the dust, put on my beautiful garments, and take my rightful seat, my rightful position, and do what I do best. And so, hopefully, sharing these things with you is maybe a start of that. And publishing my book is one of them. There's a lot of that kind of thing in there. Some of it was very rushed, but there's only so much I could do. Anyway, I hope all of this comes home to you somehow. And thank you for letting me invite you into my element for the evening. Amen.